Hey, my name is Jay Martin. This is a 3v3 game on Grassy Flats. It's a clan game, so between two clans. And on this side of the map is the Archangels clan. They go by the tag AA. And good little creativity in the unit choice there, guys. Everybody's Prussia, huh? Couldn't be a little more creative than that, could we? Please? Anyway, playing for the old AAers on the left side, that's Alpha, who's one of my buds. He's also in Huntsman. In the center is Antares, and on the right side is Ares. So maybe these dudes have some kind of rule. If you're in the AA clan, your name has to start with A. Not really sure where they're going with that. But on the other side of the map is the Guardians of Avalon, who go by the tag AVA. And on the left side is Omega. He's playing as France. And in the middle is Nunley. And on the right is Toxic Knight. And at least these guys have some variety in their nation choice. So good luck, everybody. And this is a pretty good game. I want to say I think I've at least played against Toxic Knight over there. I might be confusing things, but anyway, this is a 3v3 game. Grassy Flatlands. The rules appear to be 5 lights, no art, which is pretty standard. And I want to make this game's pretty long, so we're going to spend the majority of it in Fest 4. But I want to make a couple comments. You might have noticed I did like a 4-video series on playing the flank position in 3v3. I'm going to spend most of the game focused on this portion of the game right here. I've watched this replay twice now to try to figure out some interesting things to say, and I think this is the most interesting part of the battle. The first thing is you see these chasseur units here from France. This is a huge waste of money. A really important part of getting really good at Napoleon is understanding intimately the qualities of the different nations and the units that they can field, okay? Prussia has really good light infantry, and they have sort of moderately good line infantry and really cheap and kind of decent cav, okay? France has really shitty, shit-tastic light infantry. They have really good line and a really good cav, okay? So when a French player shows, as soon as I loaded this replay for the first time and I saw these 3 French chasseur units, I knew immediately that this was going to be just a huge beatdown on the French player right here. France is a really, probably the strongest nation to bring in a 1v1 game or even a 2v2 game. But it's actually, unless you're really good at Napoleon and you know exactly how to use France, they're arguably pretty weak on the flank of a 3v3. And more so in the middle of a 3v3. And the reason is pretty simple, that their light infantry really suck. France's line are really strong unit for unit. They're better than Prussia. But for that to occur, you need room to maneuver. And there's just no room to maneuver in a 3v3 game. So the nations that are really good in 3v3s are Prussia, GB, Portugal to some extent. And those are really the strongest nations on the flank position of a 3v3. The counter side to that argument is that if you want to rush the fuck out of somebody and you're really good at it, then by all means be France on the flank. Like Pointman, Kraz, Z Bishop, really aggro players like that, they can pull this off. But this player is kind of being not passive. Obviously, they're engaging, but they're willing to play the slow light infantry shootout game, and you're not going to win that playing as France with 5 units of chasseur against a Prussian player. It is just not going to happen. Okay, so when you're playing the flank position, you want to keep that in mind. Two things. The French player is doing a bad thing. They have their line too close to their lights. You notice down to 104, and 110 already. Just they're taking overflow bullets from the lights. But the French player is doing a smart thing there. They're moving their old guard up, which are going to get shots at the lights here. But more importantly, they're going to get that fear ability on this light sooner or later. So that is a good move from Omega right there. Now, Omega sends Cav in. A few thoughts on using Cav in the flank position is that the general huntsman concept is that he who gets their Cav in first wins. But if you're going to get your cav in, you got to get your fucking cav in. You can't do this run one unit of chasseur in there bullshit. Like, if you're going to fucking rush somebody, you fucking rush somebody, and you get all your cav in there, and you get your whole fucking army in there, and you overload their micro. This nonsense of sending one cav unit in to disrupt their lights, that can be effective in some circumstances, but this is not one of them. This is certainly not one of them. And we're going to talk more about cav in a little bit, because some cav work happens over here. But right now what you're seeing is a really standard template for a flank position on a 3v3. Let me go into regular play just to run you around the map. The center players are not engaging, and the right side, these players are having some kind of engagement. This actually is arguably a pretty interesting match that occurs over here, but in the interest of better commentary and time, I'm just not going to talk about it. So, I mean, over here, Ares and Toxic Knight are having an engagement, and in the center, Nunley and Antares are kind of being passive and waiting for the flanks to be decided. Well, what's kind of interesting is that as passive as the center players are, it doesn't seem like they're lending cav support to either flank, which is a little weird. I would think that if I was playing the center position of a 3v3 and I wasn't doing anything against my opponent, I would try to find other ways to get engaged on the field, and that could mean sending cav units over to assist my partners on the flank. Okay, so a few things are going to happen pretty soon. The lights are still shooting at the lights, which is pretty boring, and it takes time. Okay, so something interesting happens. Now, Alpha, as Prussia, sends a cav unit into the line there. That forces 2 line units to form square. Let me try to get you a better angle on this. This is a good example of who gets their cav in first wins. He forces both these units to form square, which means that while they're in square, their firepower is going to be depleted, and he's going to be able to get really good shots at them. This player did another bad thing, which was countercharge cav with cav, and he winds up with cav in no man's land here. Again, he's going to try the Hail Mary into the lights. This actually goes a little bit better than it should have for the player, because Alpha didn't square here. He might have had a good reason for that. I don't know. So these cav units are going to cause some disruption, and it does allow space for the old guard to get a volley off on those lights, which is actually a really good play from Omega there. But that's kind of how we wind up. Now, Alpha responds by charging cav into those units, which force them to form square. That is a really good use of cav, and then changes the target. Oh, fuck me. Changes the targets to come into these 2 units, which he does not square with. I kind of want to offer the idea that if I was Alpha, notice, let me slow down to play. This old guard unit was down to about 48 when this charge started. If I was Alpha, I might have charged the cav at that old guard just to get them off the field because of their fear ability. I think this was this player's only old guard unit. What Alpha did is he charged at these 2 units to make them square to give him firepower advantage. That's a really good idea. I think there's a good argument to be made that if I was Alpha, I might have just charged the old guard who were unable to form square and just get them off the field. And I think that if you're Prussia playing against France, if you can remove their old guard from the field, that's a big step to victory for you. So if I was Alpha, I might have done that, but I definitely understand where his head was at. Now, Alpha at this point has caused his opponent to retreat, and it seems that right now Alpha is eventually going to win the light on light fight. And what he's managed to do, yep, there goes the first one. That was inevitable, by the way. That was completely inevitable. And then on the right side, Alpha has caused his opponent to retreat away. It seems like his opponent is not going to be able to win engagement on the side with the old guard. And there goes the second light unit. And this is actually a pretty predictable outcome. Like if you just said, okay, Jay, you got France v Prussia on a flank of a 3v3. Prussia brings 3 chasseurs. What's going to happen? This is exactly what would happen. You know, if anything, I think if I was Alpha, like Alpha's still got a cav unit left. The way this breaks down is there are 2 sides of the line, the lights over here and the regular line. I would have invested all of my cav into blunting this because it's pretty evident that Alpha will win this area of the battle. Yada, yada, yada. Now, the French player starts to move up, and Alpha moves his own line up to attack them. This might have been an issue with how much ammo his lights had left. If I was Alpha, I might have just, you know, been cool and saved my cav and just kited a little bit with my lights and take advantage of the range the range that I'd earned by killing his chasseur. So that does make sense to me. And notice that line unit there routed. That's a Polish that routes at 27. I'm pretty certain that these units are depleted solely from overflow bullets from the lights. So Omega really paid the price of keeping his line too close to his light infantry there. Here comes, I think, the last cav unit. Oh, no, he has one more. Here comes a cav unit from Omega in there. I don't think it's going to be enough to win the engagement for him. And at this point, it's pretty evident that Alpha has won his flank fairly convincingly. Let's take a moment to get over to the center. These two players have started light on line engagement in the middle. And on the right side, it certainly looks like Ares and Toxic Knight. Ares has a light infantry advantage, so he's going to be able to take advantage of that. If I was Toxic Knight, I would probably be advancing a little bit harder. This is a shootout that the Prussian player is going to win. Now, so, let's take a little pause. To this point, we've had a really good discussion about playing the flank position of the 3v3, the roles of France v Prussia, and the strengths of their army. The second real topic I want to talk about is the concept of speed when you're playing in a 3v3. When you're playing a 3v3 game, there's a whole bunch of action going all across the map. And it's really important that if you're going to have decisive action on your part of the field, that you make that decisive action count towards your team as much as possible. Right here, I don't know what happens right here, why this player goes straight melee. He should have pulled back just to try to buy his partner's time. I don't know what's up with the big melee charge. I would not have done that if I was Omega. Again, you're playing a team game. Units that are dead cannot help your team. If you come out of the engagement with one unit left, you can still use that unit to help your team. That's really, really important. Okay, but the argument I want to make, or the point I want to make, is the concept of speed. In a team game, it's possible that you will win your flank. It's possible you'll lose your flank. It's possible your partner will lose their flanks. But if you win your flank, you want to win it fast enough, and you want to proceed with enough speed that you can then affect other parts of the battle. If you take a pause right here, what I think, fuck me, what the shit? What did I just do? Okay, right here, if I was Alpha, see these 4 units here? Actually, these 8 units here need to be moving to this region to start affecting the flank of the center Prussian player. Speed is really, really important. If you win your part of the battle, you have to get engaged to other parts of the battle. And what you're going to notice is that as Alpha is finishing off the French player, his army should be moving. Like, he should be moving down. These units should all be on a run to this section of the battle to start influencing the center, because you don't know if your partners are going to win or going to lose. Like, they might lose, and if they're in danger of losing, you need to get in there and help them. These units are still just sitting there. You really, when you're playing a team game and things go your way, then you really want to get in there and create as much trouble for the opponent as possible. And likewise, if you're losing, like the French player here, you don't want to just waste your units running them in. You want to retreat them, pull them back. You want to buy as much time for your team as possible. And, you know, if you're over here, it winds up being evident that the Guardians of Avalon team lose on both flanks. But if you're the French player, you have to think that maybe you're going to win over here. So you just want to buy your team as much time as possible. That's really, really important. And you want to get in there and help your team as much as possible. Alpha should be moving his... I mean, I think that's Alpha's unit right there. Yeah, that's Alpha's unit. So that's good to get on the flank right there. But all of these units should be moving as aggressively as possible to get on the flank of this player here. You don't have time to sit around. You got to move fast. You got to hit hard, and you want to move as fast as possible. Okay, so either if you're on the winning side, you want to move fast. If you're on the losing side, you want to slow them down as much as possible. Okay. And that's a really important aspect of playing the team-based game. It is evident. Let me try to wheel you around here. It is evident the British player is just routed. Let me go back to the initial perspective from the AA side, and they are just wrapping around the poor center player right here, Nunley. So This did seem to be a pretty well played game from all players. The one thing I want to notice is, the lessons we take away from this. You got to know your role. If you're France on the flank of a 3v3, you can't dick around with 5 Chasseurs units. You have to get in there and attack them with better line infantry and better cav. You probably want to bring maybe 0 light infantry if you're playing France on the flank of a 3v3. The second concept is maximizing value for your cav. I felt that on that left flank, the Prussian player Alpha got better value out of his cav than the French player Omega did. And then the third thing is that issue of speed. If you're able to help your team. You got to move it really fast. And you can damn well bet that if I was in this game and on TeamSpeak with Alpha, I would be screaming at him to move his units really, really fast. So that's something to keep in mind. And here's the results screen. I thought this was a great game played by all players. And my comments are maybe a little more advanced. Kind of in skill level here on this issue, but what we're looking at is a game played at a pretty high level between all these players, and what I'm really talking about is ways for all of them to improve their game a little bit. I thought all these players played at a really high level, and really I'm just the critic on the sideline who doesn't have to put their ass out there, so it's easy for me to be critical, but I thought all these guys played a really good game. This is a really, really well fought game between all of them. So hey, thanks for sending me the replay, and it was great to watch it, and you can check out more information at twreplays.com.